talked to us before we'd go to the field. He said this. He said, when we get downrange, all we got is us. And friends, all we got is us. When we go into these comments and we talk about earmarks, I want to set the record straight on some things related to earmarks. I've heard, and when the candidates, whoever you are running, don't use politicians that are immoral. I'll be the first one to tell you, 98% of the people I serve with are as honest as the day is long. God, I mean, we live in a 24-hour news cycle, so whether people are doing it for the right reasons or for the wrong reasons, they're walking the fine line because there's usually a camera waiting outside the door of your apartment when you come out in the morning. Every aspect of our finances is scrutinized. It's almost impossible to do something stupid. Now, people still manage to do that occasionally, but that's the reality of it. When we talk about earmarks, here's one of the misperceptions. There are very, very few actual projects before the whole federal budget. Every single thing that's classified as an earmark were put out there. It'd be about $16 billion on a good day. If you stretch the numbers in application, you can take it up to about $32 billion. And that was an interesting proportion when you were talking about a budget just under $1 trillion. Now, this administration is doing just what it said it was, spending completely out of control. The problem is in mandatory spending, first of all. The things that go up that aren't voted on by the Congress, which is 2/3 of the federal budget, by the way these laws were set up back in the 60s and 70s. But here's the thing I want to tell you. First, the earmarks that we do are money that is already coming back to Kentucky anyway. And I got a question for you 4th District people. Would you like David Williams, or Greg Stumbo, or Steve Beshear to decide where the $8 or $10 or $12 million that is your money, folks, goes and gets spent? Or would you like me to do it in a consensus process where it's getting spent anyway, and we can't stop that because those are called programmatic funds? Or do you want them to do it and see you go down into some holler somewhere? Take a drive into Greg Stumbo's district sometime and take a look at what's there. The reason I bring this up to you is that's your money. And I can simply say, Ron Paul does the same thing in Texas and was the king of the Texas delegation a couple of years ago and doing just that. And unapologetically, and I would stand with him today and say this, that is your money, that's our money, and if it's going to get spent, we have a right to bring it back to our district to at least get some value of it before it's goes. So let's focus on that. Another thing I want to say, there's a conservative group that I think has great potential. A friend of mine, Chris Giacola, just took it over. He's a former congressman from Indiana. And we actually took it over about a year and a half ago. We met a couple of times talking through some issues, related to this. Grading earmark, grading spending of members of Congress. I know one site that only rates a thing called a report card. The only problem is they don't vote on any appropriations bills for votes that are scored there. I want you to hear that. You go to Club for Growth's site, and I'm not dissing the organization, it's a fine organization, but they rate something that doesn't actually matter. And those are the amendments of a member from Arizona who's a good guy, but he's pulling individual earmarks, and we're all voting against the whole bills anyway, 95% of the time. And I bring that up to you so that we can define and clarify what the truth is. Like it says in Romans 14:22, blessed is the man who does not condemn himself by what he proves. Let's get to the truth and look at reality. Because a lot of times someone will say, oh, look, we cut this one little thing here, and you see spending going up by 6.5% in another area, and that amounts to several $100 billion. And we just got bait and switched because we thought we did something. Let's focus on the big thing and keep the main thing the main thing. Again, we talk about national security and working together. All right? I took an oath to swear to defend the Constitution of the United States when I became a soldier. I took virtually the same oath when I became a congressman. I take that oath very seriously. When I buried my classmate Jimmy Harrison, who was killed on May 6, 2007, that was a moving day for me because he went back because he believed in the mission. Now, I have people on the left and the right that got all these kinds of issues with the war. But I want to tell you, when you have a commander-in-chief, you can disagree with him, but you stand with him when he makes the right decision. And regarding Afghanistan, I got thrown out of the White House once by President Bush for all practical purposes. Because I gave a message from several classmates over in theater that they felt he needed to hear. And I spent a lot of political capital with that. Because I looked a lot meaner people in the eye and had to deal with it. But here's the other thing though. President Obama, who you all know I've had my run-ins with, when he finally got around to doing the right thing that Dave Petraeus had needed him to do to salvage something out of this situation that we got ourselves into so it doesn't become worse, and and actually move towards something I think that we can consider a victory and something moving towards stability. I was also one of 6 congressmen who was at West Point that night watching him deliver that speech with a bunch of my classmates still on active duty, and he looked in the eye of people who were going to carry out that mission and told them what it was. The reason I'm telling you this, and it's not just the rah-rah, hurt the liberals, yay, we're conservatives, is that's the real world. And when you want to get into that fight, that's the fight I'm in every day, and that's the fight I want you to be in, and I want your friends to come and be in, and know that if we hold together day by day and step by step, and we're willing to get up in the morning and go and do that thing that we may not want to do, or walk with my friend who doesn't want to walk with me and I don't want to walk with him, but we're focusing on a higher cause, and besides, we're both, not that we're completely wrong, it's that neither of us are completely right. And the founders knew that when they gave us this form of government. And I want the faces, having dealt with this the whole time I've been in politics. I remember why I hated politicians when I was in the Army, after I became one. Because I see it all over again. Most of this is unnecessary. The Democrats love it when we fight and pick on each other. They want us to do that. Heck, they're funding the Tea Party candidate running against Harry Reid and the Republicans out in Nevada right now. Because at least they're coy enough to get the picture. And I want to win this fight, and I don't want to give any quarter to them. At the end of the day, it's not about education, it's about values, it's about worldview, and the people who disagree with our worldview we need to work to send home. Now, how did we get here? And this is the thing I want to leave you with. How did we get here to this place? We lost 32 seats in 2006 and 20 seats in 2008. Oh, it was this, or it was George Soros, or it was Acorn, or it was President Bush, or it was the Republicans, or it was spending, or it's actually a little bit simpler than that, how things happen. When Republicans walked away from the Republican Party after the government shutdown in 1995. When Newt Gingrich actually tried to force the process to do what was necessary. We lost that PR battle, and it was our own people that put us in power, those of us who voted those members into power, that caused us to lose that fight. It's simply this: conservatives don't vote. You hear that? I'm telling you the God's honest truth. J.C. Watts, a friend of mine from Oklahoma, used to be a member of Congress, was the Republican conference chair until 2002, sent me an email two weeks after the 2008 election with some data that made me freeze as I looked at it. In 2006, when we lost 32 seats, it was on a total of 78,000 votes nationally. Now let's put that into local context. I can't think nationally, heck, I can't even think statewide. That's why I'm just a dumb congressman. When I go into my 24 counties and begin to add up, in the context that he added it up, and got it from some valid statistics, I was stunned. And you know what that was? That came down to 32 seats, came down to 1 vote per precinct, nationally. Think about that. In that time, 61% of self-identified fiscal, social, Christian, and Catholic conservatives stayed home. In 2008, 55% stayed home. Who do we have to blame? We don't need to be making fun of Barack Obama. He's giving up everybody what he promised. We go and look in the mirror, the thing we got to do, folks, and the reason I'm giving a sober speech instead of a rah-rah speech tonight is the stakes are high. The stakes are high in the Senate race. And I got news, I got a word for everybody here. It doesn't matter who endorses who. Nobody endorsed me, and I won my election. There's a whole long line of defeated people that wanted to come out and prove that wrong. You got to earn it, because when you earn it, you own it. And we earn that together. And I'm not saying that to take a hit at Rand or Trey or John or anybody else. I'm saying what matters is that connection at the heart with the people that we are elected to represent and lead in Washington, D.C. And that's a time that we've got to stick together. And I believe if we have to turn on it, here's the thing that one of our former leaders told me. He said this: if just 10%, and this was back in 2002, if 10% of those people, of those conservatives who didn't vote, just came to the polls and voted the worldview that they have, meaning that there would be fall-off between all kinds of different political candidates and parties. None of the controversial issues on spending, or values, or national security, or the courts, or the press would be in operation today in this country. We get the government that we deserve by the level of participation that we have. And you who are participating here are the ones that make that difference. And my charge to you is to recruit people to do that work, to carry this message out to them, because we're all Republicans at the end of the day, and more importantly, we are all Americans carrying on a heritage. Now, I almost left the Congress in my second term. I hit the point of cynicism